under section 6H of plant physiology syllabus. So this includes various types of stress undergone by the plants and mechanisms of resistance shown by the plants. So let us move on to the topic. So stress is any external factor that exerts a disadvantageous influence on the plant, and the plant's fitness to cope up with such an unfavorable condition is termed as stress tolerance. So stress tolerance is in a way genetical also. So basically there are 5 types of stress usually faced by the plants. They are drought stress, heat stress, cold stress, salinity stress, and oxygen stress. So first we will move on to drought stress. In drought stress, it is the lack of water in the soil or surrounding medium that causes stress to the plant. So in response, plants show a lot of changes which can be termed the immediate response is called the first line defense, that is the reduction in leaf area and the production of ethylene which will lead to leaf abscission, and the second line of defense is the extension of roots in search of more water, and next the third line, the stomata are closed which with the involvement of abscisic acid. So you should remember these are the questions the CSIR sometimes focuses. Also next is osmotic adjustments of cells by producing compatible solutes. These are a category of biomolecules such as proline, sorbitol, mannitol, glycine, betaine, etc. So these substances will be produced more inside the cell to increase the osmoticum of the plant cell to prevent desiccation. And next will be the plants, if the dehydration moves on further, the plant undergoes cavitation, that is the formation of air cavities in xylem and other conducting tissues. And regarding drought stress, several genes are also expressed in response, such as pyrrolin 5 carboxylate synthase for proline synthesis. Proline, is a compatible solute, and another one is betaine aldehyde dehydrogenase, which is involved in the production of glycine betaine. Another one is myoinositol 6O methyl transferase and aquaporin genes, and a category of proteins called as LEA proteins. LEA means late embryogenesis abundant proteins, which help in membrane protection. The cell membrane will be protected with the help of these proteins. So these are the general effects of drought stress. Next is heat stress. So most plants cannot tolerate above 45 degrees Celsius. They simply die. But the pollen grains can tolerate up to 70 degrees C. Seeds can tolerate up to 120 degrees C. And most of the prokaryotes can survive even after 60 degrees Celsius. So it is the plants which are more prone towards heat stress. So in response to heat stress, plants produce a category of proteins called as HSP proteins or heat shock proteins, which are usually formed when the plant undergoes 5 to 10 degrees Celsius change in the environment. So usually there are a few general HSPs like 100, HSP 100, HSP 90, HSP 70, HSP 60. These are common in animals and plants. But the smallest HSP, SMHSP, is found only in plants. So they act as molecular chaperones to protect plant proteins, usually the misfolded proteins. Another impact is the excess production of GABA, that is gamma aminobutyric acid. It is a calmodulin regulated uh, synthesis from L-glutamate by an enzyme called as glutamate decarboxylase. This GABA molecule also helps in protecting the cells. Next stress is cold stress. So this happens when the temperature decreases to 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. So then the chilling injury begins, and slowly freezing will start at 0 degrees. That is called as cold shock. So there are two types of plants which can resist cold temperatures and plants which cannot. Usually those which can resist the temperature decrease will be having more quantity of unsaturated fatty acids in their cell membrane. They will have more kinks or bends, so that it will be difficult for them to freeze. And plants usually produce some antifreeze proteins to prevent ice formation. Ice formation is usually triggered by the presence of bacteria on the leaf surface, while the bacteria acting as a ice nucleator for ice formation. So some of the antifreeze proteins produced by the plants are antifreeze molecules are sucrose, raffinose, sorbitol, mannitol. Antifreeze proteins such as THP, that is thermal hysteresis proteins, are also produced in addition to Lea proteins, which will protect the membrane during the stress period. Next is salinity stress. High amount of sodium in the soil is referred to as sodicity, while high amount of all salts in together is mentioned as salinity. You should be able to distinguish the two terms. And another term is halophytes, which prefer to live in saline soils. They have adaptations to live in halophytic saline conditions. But glycophytes are plants which are non-halophytes, that they don't have any such adaptations. So the general physiological and cellular changes regarding salinity stress include ion exclusion in two ways. Either the cell can expel out the Na plus ions towards the outside using SOS1 antiporter. SOS1 antiporter is an sodium proton H plus NaH plus antiporter, which is controlled by SOS2 and SOS3. Meanwhile, some sodium ions can be taken into vacuole to protect the cytoplasm using another antiporter, Na plus H plus antiporter, that is called as ATNHX1. And next comes oxygen stress, that happens when the surrounding soil is flooded and the plant gets lesser amount of oxygen. So this usually causes root damage by anoxia, lack of oxygen, and as a result lactate, sorry for the spelling trouble, it should be spelled as lactate by the enzyme called lactate dehydrogenase or LDH, and causes a condition called cytosolic acidosis. And the hypoxia that is the lack of oxygen, accelerates another enzyme called uh, ACC, that is 1 aminopropane 1 carboxylic acid. This is the precursor of ethylene, and once ethylene is formed, it causes stem elongation as well as death of some root cells. This death of root cells causes parenchyma formation. This is in a way helping it to float and to store some oxygen within this cavity. So this is the outline of stress physiology portion related with CSIR, UGC, Life Sciences, National Eligibility Test. Please subscribe for updates of the next chapter. Thank you for watching.